A year had passed, and deep within the southwest mountain range of the ancient cloud continent, the land was scorched with fiery red hues. Pillars of molten lava erupted with the roar of thunder, casting the sky into a blaze, the air thick with the scent of sulfur. Amongst this fiery hell stood the Fire Cloud Peak, a mountain riddled with caverns, like the honeycomb of a titan. It was here that Han Li arrived, his azure light flashing as he swiftly descended into the depths. 2 weeks later, the echoes of battle rang through the cave. Han Li, a blur of azure, clashed fiercely with a massive crimson lizard that had terrorized the miners. Each strike of his fists created tremors, shattering the lizard's scales. The beast, though fierce, could not match Han Li's relentless assault. With a final, devastating punch, the lizard was sent crashing into the stone wall, its thick scales splintering under the force. Before the creature could flee into molten rock, a black saber, imbued with overwhelming law power, descended from above. With a sharp, resounding strike, the saber cleaved the lizard in two, scattering its nascent soul into nothingness. Han Li reclaimed the saber with emotion, his expression as unshaken as ever. Around him, the crimson fire origin crystals fell from the beast's broken form, glowing with an intense heat, but Han Li's touch was unaffected. With a quick sweep, he gathered the treasures and severed the lizard's claws, stowing them away as he soared off once more. A year later, Han Li returned to the high profound palace, the familiar sight of the side hall offering him a sense of relief. Having completed 2 of his missions, only one remained, and then he would enjoy a century of freedom. However, upon entering, he found the hall empty and asked a passing servant, who directed him to the 100-Wine Peak. There, he found the peculiar 100-Wine Cottage, its gates inscribed with sloppy calligraphy. Inside, the air was thick with the fragrance of wine and herbs. Han Li's eyes gleamed at the sight of a green spirit plant, reminiscent of one he had once taken from the Heavenly Ghost sect. After a brief inspection, he approached the hall and knocked on the door. Elder Hu Yan, slightly inebriated, greeted him with a hearty laugh. After a drink and brief pleasantries, Han Li reported his success in slaying the Crimson Lizard. Hu Yan, lost in his own revelry, praised Han Li before offering him more wine, urging him to slow down and enjoy life. Sitting across from the drunken elder, Han Li raised his cup, the wine's warmth spreading through him as it flowed to his dantian. For a moment, the world seemed to vanish, and the pressures of cultivation faded. Elder Huyan spoke of casting aside the shackles of cultivation, finding the true meaning of life in indulgence. Han Li, though tempted to join in the carefree revelry, quickly shook off the notion. His journey had taught him the dangers of complacency, and his determination to pursue the great Tao burned brighter than ever. With a clear mind, he praised the fine green pear wine, his heart no longer clouded by the fleeting euphoria, for he knew that in the immortal world, danger lurked at every corner, and only vigilance would secure his path to the Tao. The air was thick with the aroma of fine wines, and Elder Huyan's eyes gleamed with delight as he regarded Han Li. "Ah, a connoisseur of wines, are you?" he asked, a glint of surprise in his voice. Han Li smiled humbly, though he was far from an expert, only gaining a smattering of knowledge through his travels with Sun Ke over the thunderstorm sea. The wine they now shared, however, brought back memories of those days. Elder Huyan, delighted by the revelation, rose from his chair, his excitement palpable. "You truly are a man of taste. Let us indulge in more." With a swift motion, he retrieved a collection of flagons, each one an intricate masterpiece, and laid them on the table before Han Li. The cups, fashioned from jade, gold, copper, and even stone, were all inscribed with strange runes, each a treasure in its own right. Intrigued, Han Li raised an eyebrow. "Why so many cups, Elder? Do they each serve a specific purpose?" With a proud gleam, Elder Huyan explained, "Ah, yes, the right vessel elevates the experience. For instance, this green pear wine must be sipped from heavenly azure jade cups, while the red mulberry immortal wine requires a vessel crafted from ancient vines to truly bring out its fragrance." Han Li, though skeptical at first, was soon captivated by the intoxicating taste. As the wine lingered on his tongue, he marveled at its depth. The green vine cup amplifies the aroma, aligning with the fire attribute essence of the wine, he mused. Elder Huyan, pleased by Han Li's perceptiveness, poured more, each wine more exquisite than the last. Han Li's senses were overwhelmed, and soon he realized his cultivation could not keep pace with the onslaught of spiritual energy in the wine. Knowing his limits, he paused, but Elder Hu Yan continued his revelry, clearly unaffected by the wine's potent effects. "I must interrupt, Elder," Han Li said, his voice polite but firm. "There is something of importance I must report." Elder Hu Yan grumbled but conceded. Han Li handed over a storage treasure containing fire origin crystals from the Fire Cloud Peak, a rare resource in the sect. "These crystals are used in the refinement of immortal origin stones," Elder Hu Yan explained, and then spoke of the renowned 9 turns immortal origin array, capable of fusing spirit stones into immortal origin stones in a matter of moments. Han Li was enlightened, recognizing the immense value of the crystals. "Such stones are rare in my homeland," he admitted. With a wave, Elder Hu Yan dismissed the conversation and turned to the matter at hand. "You are eager to finish your missions and return to cultivation. Yes, I have just the task for you." He detailed the assignment: to protect inner sect disciples in secret during their trial for promotion. The mission was to begin in 3 days, and Han Li readily accepted. Before Han Li left, Elder Hu Yan's voice rang out once more. "Are you familiar with Dao warriors?" Startled, Han Li turned to face the elder, who spoke with pride of his mastery over the Dao warrior art. Han Li, eager to learn, humbly requested guidance, but Elder Hu Yan flatly refused, stating that only an immortal wine recipe superior to his own would sway him. Han Li, though disappointed, promised to search for such a recipe. "If I find one, you will teach me?" he asked. Elder Hu Yan's smirk was confident. "If you find it, I will teach you, but do not think this will be easy." Han Li left with a sense of both challenge and determination, his thoughts already on the task ahead. The path of cultivation was fraught with hurdles, but this encounter had only strengthened his resolve to grow and learn. Han Li departed the 100 Wine Cottage and returned straight to the hidden chamber of his cave abode. With layers of restrictions sealing the surroundings like overlapping talismans, he folded his legs and sat in meditation. After completing 2 elder missions in succession, exhaustion weighed upon his bones despite the ease of the tasks. The immortal wine still churned within his dantian, needing time to be refined, and these 3 days of rest were precious. Yet before his breathing could fully steady, his eyes snapped open. The storage bracelet at his wrist trembled violently. Before thought could form, a streak of black radiance burst forth, the black saber leaping out like a furious dragon freed from chains, slicing through the air toward the exit with thunderous speed. Han Li reacted instantly. Hand seals flashed, and layers of azure light blossomed like a celestial net, sealing the chamber. The saber roared like a feral beast. Black light surged as it cleaved through the azure barriers, though its momentum slowed. Golden light flared. The mantra treasured axis descended, sending ripples of time-like force spreading 100 feet in all directions. The saber's speed dropped to a third, and with a powerful pull, Han Li dragged it back into his palm. The weapon shuddered madly, struggling like a captured demon, but his grip was unyielding. "What's going on?" Fang Pan was long dead, and this blade had already been refined by him. It should not rebel. His spiritual sense poured into the saber, only to be blocked by invisible forces pushing it away. Cold light flashed between his brows. With sword observation art, he condensed his consciousness into a translucent sword and pierced straight in, shredding the resistance. Beyond the layers of restriction lay a pitch-black inner realm. Countless dark patterns sprawled like tangled spiderwebs, forming a massive formation. At its center stood a black altar, above which hovered a distorted sphere of black light, pulsing in eerie rhythm with the array. Han Li's heart shook. He had seen this place before, but never so complex. This was the true core seal. Within the black light, a blurry face slowly emerged. Its eyes were long and sharp like blades, burning with arrogance and fury. Not Fang Pan. Realization struck like thunder. The saber's true master was someone else. Fang Pan had merely borrowed it. The hidden seal had been placed by its original owner far beyond what Han Li could detect during refinement. Worse still, the mark had been activated. Its purpose was clear: to locate the blade, if that person followed the trail. Disaster! Without hesitation, Han Li slashed with his spiritual sword. The face roared in rage, transforming into a translucent black chain resembling an origin law chain, whipping forward to clash. The sword cut through it like dry weeds. The chain shattered into black motes, and the vast array dimmed and collapsed. The saber ceased its rebellion, its light fading into still obedience. Only then did it seem truly refined. Yet Han Li felt no relief. Upon the altar remained a rune-like mark, faintly glowing. A bonded mark. He struck it with another sword projection. Boom! The blow rebounded. The mark merely trembled, then stabilized, untouched and indestructible. Han Li's face darkened. Attacking further was useless. He withdrew his spiritual sense and stared at the saber in silence. Far away, on the ancient cloud continent, a colossal black crane soared across the heavens, thousands of feet long, its feathers metallic dark, crowned with gold, black flames wreathing its wings like demonic sails. Upon its back sat a towering yellow-robed man, array flags floating around him in a revolving formation. Runes poured from his hands into the array. Suddenly, the formation exploded. The flags scattered in all directions. The man cursed aloud as he gathered them back with a sweep of his sleeve. "Were you able to find him, Master?" the crane asked sharply. "Almost. I've locked onto the general direction," the man snarled. "That trash Fang Pan not only died, he lost my Black Emperor Immortal Slaying Blade," the crane sneered. "How could a fool like him compare to you?" "That blade is my bonded treasure. I never should have lent it out," it continued flatteringly. "That Han Li survived 300 years ago and even killed Fang Pan. Yet now that you pursue him, his luck ends." The man's eyes glinted coldly. "Whatever secret he carries that made Fang Pan chase him so desperately, I will claim it myself, and I must ensure that old bastard doesn't learn of it first." His aura erupted, cracking the air. The crane trembled and sped up through the clouds. Back in the chamber, Han Li finally moved. Azure runes burst from his hands and wrapped around the saber layer upon layer until the black blade turned completely azure, its aura sealed to nothingness. He placed it into a glowing black treasure box and covered it with talismans. Even so, unease lingered. As long as the blade remained with him, its master might still sense it. To erase the bonded mark entirely would require refining it with nascent flame for at least 100 years. A century, wasted on one weapon. Han Li's brows knit tightly. This saber had become not a treasure, but a calamity waiting to strike. After much deliberation, Han Li reached a decision. The saber, powerful though it was, brought more trouble than it was worth. Better to part with it than risk refining it and wasting more time. His safety outweighed any attachment to such a weapon. With resolve, he retrieved his transient guild mask and donned it. A vast azure array bloomed before him, and he swiftly posted a mission to sell the cursed weapon. The guild offered 2 ways to trade, one where the price was negotiable, and one where it was fixed. Han Li, seeking a swift transaction, opted for the latter, listing the saber at a fair 50 immortal origin stones. Though it bore the mark of its previous owner, stolen goods were not uncommon in the guild, and the buyers cared little for such matters. With a flick of his hand, Han Li placed the wooden box containing the saber onto the array, and it vanished with a flash. Although reluctant to part with such a mighty treasure, Han Li felt a measure of relief. Before removing the mask, a thought struck him, and he quickly posted another mission, this one seeking recipes for immortal wines, though he had little hope of success. With that, he removed the mask, a sigh escaping his lips as he rested in contemplation, the azure light of cultivation encasing him. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Han Li reopened his eyes, feeling refreshed. He donned the mask once more, and to his satisfaction, the saber had already sold 50 immortal origin stones. He marveled at the transaction, but whether the buyer would face consequences from the original owner was of no concern to him. Yet the wine recipe mission had yielded no results. With little expectation for it, he stowed the mask and left his chamber. The first light of dawn greeted him as he stepped outside, the golden sun casting a warm glow over the snow-covered Bell Toll mountain range. A brisk breath of fresh air invigorated him further. It was the 3rd day, and the time had come to depart for the Rising Sun Palace. Though the mission posed no immediate danger, Han Li carefully checked his supplies before leaving the Crimson Dawn Peak. Half a day later, he arrived at the towering Golden Palace. the Rising Sun Palace, where a square-faced attendant named Fang Yu greeted him. The attendant led Han Li into a side hall where a middle-aged man in scholarly robes sat, savoring his tea. The man raised his head and Han Li smiled, greeting him warmly. "Brother Su, it's been a while," Han Li said. Su Tongxiao, a fellow cultivator who had accompanied Han Li on a previous mission, greeted him with a smile. The two exchanged pleasantries, and Han Li noted that Su had recently reached the mid-true immortal stage, an impressive feat. As they spoke, a young attendant informed them that the mission would begin shortly, and he left them to wait. Han Li, ever observant, noticed that the disciples in the main hall appeared young, their glowing spiritual light indicating they were well protected by treasures. Among them stood Bai Suyuan, her progress apparent as she had recently reached the mid-spatial tempering stage. Su Tongxiao explained that the trial these disciples would undergo was to test their experience in life-and-death combat. Han Li, intrigued by the mission, sought further understanding. He asked about the purpose of the trial, to which Su Tongxiao explained that while these disciples possessed outstanding aptitudes, they lacked real-world combat experience. This trial was designed to remedy that, ensuring they were prepared for the challenges ahead. As Han Li's gaze lingered on Bai Suyuan, Su Tongxiao noticed and, with a knowing smile, asked if Han Li was familiar with her. Han Li's answer was silent, his mind filled with thoughts of her progress and the path she had taken. The hall hummed with quiet whispers, where disciples gathered for the impending trial. Han Li, as ever, exuded an air of calm contemplation. "She is an acquaintance of mine," he mused, nodding toward Bai Suyuan. "We joined the Blaze Dragon Dao together." His words rippled through the air, catching the attention of Brother Su. "I encountered her on a mission once." Su Tongxiao spoke with clarity. "She is said to possess the moonlight immortal physique. In but a century of cultivation, her progress is remarkable. She will surely make waves in the sect. Why then, if she's already a direct disciple of Dao Lord Yun, must she still undergo this trial?" Han Li inquired with a touch of confusion. "Rules are rules," Su Tongxiao explained. "Though she is already a direct disciple, her rise to the spatial tempering stage necessitates this trial." As the conversation unfolded, a figure entered the hall, a familiar one, despite the passing years. Sun Ke, once a traveling companion on the ancient cloud continent, had found his place within the Blaze Dragon Dao. His appearance was met with a moment of surprise from Han Li, and all eyes in the hall turned toward him. Unsettled by the attention, Sun Ke smiled awkwardly, moving to a corner of the hall. The other disciples gave little regard to him, save Bai Suyuan, who returned his smile with quiet grace. His entrance seemed to unsettle the tense air, though the hall soon returned to its cliques. Among them, a handsome young man in brocade robes stood at the center of one circle, his glabella marked with a glowing purple symbol, radiating power. Another circle, dominated by a dark-skinned youth with an aura of mystery, held its own as the largest group of disciples, though their attention often shifted toward Bai Suyuan, who radiated an ethereal beauty like a blooming snow lotus. Her silence, though serene, was occasionally interrupted by whispered words from the other female cultivators, but the gaze of the men lingered on her. Bai Suyuan, in turn, acknowledged them with subtle smiles, which caused Chi Huanyu, the brocade-robed youth, to approach her. His words, courteous but calculating, were met with an equal measure of politeness from her, though her acknowledgement of his standing seemed to elevate his ego. Yet it was Tang Chuan, the dark-skinned youth, who seized the opportunity to undermine Chi Huanyu, questioning his supposed title of leading figure. Before the exchange could escalate, Bai Suyuan's response to Tang Chuan was marked by an artful compliment, softening his wrath, but Chi Huanyu, seething, lashed out at Tang Chuan's pride, leading to a flare of energy from both men. Tensions rippled through the hall, and disciples braced themselves for conflict. However, the air shifted with the arrival of an authoritative voice. "Insolence!" A wave of invisible pressure swept through the hall, halting all in their tracks. The Grand Ascension Stage cultivator, Fang Yu, appeared with a commanding presence, quelling the discord. His gaze swept over the gathered disciples as he addressed the crowd. Announcing the commencement of the trial, Sun Ke and the others gathered around as Fang Yu outlined the grim task ahead. an expedition into the profound ice mountain range to slay a dark snow bear, a beast of formidable power. The trial stakes were high, life or death. Meanwhile, in a side hall, Hanli observed the scene, a subtle smile crossing his face as he noted the familiar antics of Bai Suyuan. Her use of seductive arts, inherited from Dao Lord Yun, had ensnared the hearts of the proud youths without their knowledge. He mused on the subtle nature of her cultivation, the skill required to entrap even those of significant stature. As the trial preparations unfolded, the air crackled with anticipation, and the sex leaders, Dao Lord Ouyang and Dao Lord Yun, made their entrance. Their words were sharp and to the point, indicating the deadly nature of the trial and the sect's disdain for weakness. The fate of the disciples was not to be dictated by mercy, but by their own strength and resilience. The trial, it seemed, was not merely a test of skill, but of survival. Only those who proved themselves worthy would return, while the rest would be cast aside as the sect's unforgiving judgment passed upon them.